Are you in the boat right now where you just take everything so flipping personal? Whether that's in your relationship, whether that's at work, whether that's your family ties, your friends. Like, does everything always feel like a personal attack? Do you feel like you're always on the defensive? Well, on this episode of the Unfltered Podcast, we're talking about the mindset that can completely change the game for you and change how you connect with people with implementing the habit to stop taking things so personally. Whether it's a friend's offhanded comment, co-worker's attitude, or even the actions of your partner. We often make the mistake of interpreting a person's behavior, a person's comment, and their general energy as a reflection of our own self-worth. But what if I told you, most of the time, it has nothing to do with you? What if I told you right now, everything that's going on isn't really a personal attack? It's just you making it a personal attack. What would you say? Before we go into that any further, let me just reintroduce. It is the Unfiltered Podcast, where we take the I out of unfiltered and place the emphasis on you. And if you are a fan of the unfiltered nature of this podcast, if you are a fan of the content I'm putting out, if I could ask you politely, could you please hit that subscribe button that you listen to this on YouTube or wherever else you really listen to this on. Building a bigger audience helps the vision of taking this podcast to where I want to take it. You hitting that subscribe button goes a very long way. But yeah, enough of that waffle. I'm never good at that introduction. Let's get straight into the episode. So, taking things personal. Why? Let's pretend like you're my client right now. Why are you taking things so personal? What's really getting under the skin right now? What's really bothering you? Every client of mine won't naturally answer it off the cuff, but will openly admit they take things personally because when we dig very, very deep, the feeling of not being good enough, the belief system of not being good enough, the belief system of not being worthy enough plays a pivotal part in regards to why things are always personal, why they feel attacked. If you're constantly taking things personally, nothing ever actually is positive. It's always a negative and you're always on the defensive. Things are always frustrating you. You're always backed up into a corner and you're always having to swing and fight back. Is that the lifestyle you want to be living? Like, I remember when I had this friend, and I've mentioned it maybe on earlier seasons of the podcast around like my self-worth and how I always went into like defensive mode. And the boys will laugh at this now, but like, and even to this day, they'll throw in jokes and banter out, why are you so emotional? Why are you so emotional? And for me, back in the day, it was a case of like, I was trying to defend myself. Am I not allowed to be emotional? Am I not allowed to have a comment around this? Why is it seen as emotional? Why can't I just basically state my opinion? Why does it have to be deemed as emotional? And it's quite funny because now it's said in a banterous way. But back in the day, it used to really piss me the fuck off. And I used to see things as personal attacks. Like, I couldn't be me because it was deemed as emotional and being emotional was wrong. And it was because I lacked self-worth. And I always got defensive. I always had to fight my corner, even if I felt like I wasn't being emotional. Like, I then became emotional, trying to defend myself. And maybe you're in a similar boat right now where some things are occurring right now and it just triggers you to go into this very much fight mode. It's not even flight, it's fight mode. And you have to back yourself up because you feel attacked right now with whatever it is that's being thrown your way. And the question I want to throw out and I want to get you to start thinking about is, why are you taking it so personally? What is it that's actually happening right now? Because there could be something quite fundamental here. Let's not shy away from that. Let's take the scenario where you and your partner right now, he or she isn't listening and like it's leading to mistakes being made at home, or it's leading to things not being done. Laundry stays in the washing machine, the bins aren't taken out, the remotes are lost, or things aren't put away in a certain place, like all of this little bits and bobs. But can play a pivotal role because it just feels like maybe they're just undermining your value and come across as feeling disrespected. And it's a case of you're not valued anymore because your partner doesn't want to listen to you, doesn't want to hear you out, and invalidates your feelings. And hence why I can appreciate why that might feel like a personal attack. But it then goes back to the fact of, why is it deemed personal? I feel like there are a number of tips I could throw out there, which I will get into, which can help you if you start implementing them, start to practice and put into place. But if we look at all areas of life right now, are you the kind of person who generally gets very much bothered, flustered and pissed off when people do you dirty? And what I mean by doing you dirty, whether it's accidental or on purpose, whether it's intentional or unintentional, like, why is it so much of a big thing for you? And that's something we want to like try and explore. I remember like I used to get frustrated when people used to cut me up. And I remember like my dad used to get frustrated when people used to cut him up. And then it got me thinking later down the line, what if there's a reason? What if that person's running late? What if there's an emergency going on? Are they intentionally trying to be a dick? They might be. Or there could be a genuine reason for it. Is it a personal attack on me? No. Is it a personal attack on my ego? No. Am I letting it be a personal attack on my ego? I think it's more that versus it actually being something to like bring me down. Is this person laughing at how they cut me up? Maybe, maybe not. But there could be a reason. Why am I letting it bother me? I'm still getting to my location at a good time. Yes, it's ignorant on their behalf, but hey ho, everyone has their reasons, right? It is what it is. And when I started digesting it from that angle, I realized, I don't actually have to get angry about certain things anymore. And it's an interesting mindset to have, because like in relationships, sometimes we feel if someone tries to critique us, if it slightly comes across as negative, we're ready to throw arms and lose our shit in the midst of a general conversation. Now, what happens then? Can your partner then ever come talk to you in regards to their feelings? Can your partner ever come and say to you, look, didn't appreciate you doing X, Y, and Z? Nope, because it's always going to turn into a war. It's a fight. It's a Royal Rumble right now. It's all kicking off. People are being thrown over the top rope. It's just chaos. It doesn't need to be like that. But it's only becoming like that because you've taken it personally. And one reminder I've been throwing a few of my clients recently is, what's the intention behind this? Think about it. I know it's difficult in the moment because there's a trigger there. But upon reflection, I want you to ask yourself the question, was this done maliciously? Was this done intentionally to piss me off? I have a feeling you will start to realize that it weren't. I have a feeling you will start to understand that what was said, what was done, wasn't put out there to piss you off. It wasn't put out there to personally wind you up. They weren't getting shits and gigs out of it, but you've taken it that way. So not only have we identified your problem, but they weren't doing it in that manner in the first place. So do we really need to get angry about it? When you let go of this personal attachment, it can lead to less stress. It can lead to stronger connections and, like, more importantly, more peace in your life, because you realize that it's not done intentionally. So the 4 tips that I was going to throw out, I've got them written down here. Tip number 1, I want you to understand that people's actions are more about them than they are about you. If you take, like, say, someone cutting you up, it's more about them, not on you. You're not a joke because someone cut you up. They're just ignorant, or they're late, or they're rushing, or there's an emergency. It's on them, not on you. Tip number 2, I want you to pause before reacting and give yourself a moment to reflect. Now, this is going to be very difficult for those who generally just jump the gun when they feel attacked. And this is why, like, a little more work with someone, a coach in this example, or getting some therapy to actually talk about the problems that have come up for why you then react would be very useful at this stage. But if you can pause before you react, it goes a long way, because you give yourself a chance right now to actually digest what has actually been thrown out there. So if I go back to the days when I felt I was being personally attacked for being emotional, I think at the time, regardless to how it's come across, my friends were just bantering. I took it personally because I felt attacked. Respectfully, it was said in shits and gigs. Obviously, I took it the wrong way because I had something personally wrong with the idea that I couldn't be emotional. They weren't saying that. Of course you can be emotional. Pretty it's okay. But respectfully, in a banterous way, they've obviously said it in a way which was going to lead to a reaction. So if I pause in those moments, which I now do, I won't react in a way where I once did, because I know it's not personal. It's said in a different context. Does that kind of make sense? Tip number 3, and I've already said it, focus on their intention rather than the interpretation. It's so easy to lose our head in moments when we just take what has been interpreted versus the intention. I know first and foremost when a family member, if I use like my parents for instance, say something out of line, they're not done it intentionally to piss me off. They've just not thought about what they've said, or they're saying it with actual positivity. I remember, like, growing up, like, if dates never worked out or relationships never worked out, my dad would be like, he's very much very black and white, but he'd be like, yeah, you're better than that. And he weren't doing it to be negative. He weren't doing it to actually say anything negative towards these people. It was more of a case of trying to encourage me to take a step forward and not dwell and not beat myself up. So the intention was right. I interpreted it very wrong. And so I had a bad relationship with my dad moving forward, where I wouldn't tell him about certain things because I misunderstood what he was trying to say, if that makes sense. Yeah, it led for me not, like, going up to him and asking for advice around, like, girls and dating growing up. Like, I'd keep it a bit more hush-hush or go speak to other people around it. But when you can understand the intention behind someone's message, it goes a lot further than you intend. So if you're arguing with your partner right now, if you're the person listening to this where you're arguing with your partner, you're having little squabbles, if you're arguing with your family right now, I want you to look behind the intention of what this person on the other end of the table, what are they really saying? What are they really trying to do in this scenario? Don't interpret it as they're trying to take the piss out of you. I want you to really understand the intentions of what they're trying to do. Are they trying to be helpful? Because if they are, they might land it poorly. But as long as you know they're trying to be helpful, it changes the way you're going to react to the whole scenario. Tell me if I'm wrong. One of my clients from a number of years ago used to say to me that her boyfriend used to, like, it used to wind her up consistently in regards to, like, some of the jokes he was making. Now, I can appreciate, being a guy, the jokes were said in a manner where they were meant to be very lighthearted, fun, and in a way to uplift the mood versus it being negative. Obviously, the intention wasn't to piss people off, but when she got pissed off, it led to further arguments like, why can't you take a joke? I'm not said it, and she just didn't want to hear it. And one of the things that we worked on, and one of the reminders that we embedded, it's so basic, but it was a reminder to put on her phone, on her background for a period of time. Is this a personal attack? Are they intentionally trying to piss me off? We changed up the words to keep it flowing. And it was a number of different, like, questions that we used to literally place on the background of her phone, right, and have her reaffirming the situation to be unintentional. And she needed that question as a reminder. And after a while, the relationship blossomed a lot further than it ever had done, because she realized that he's only trying to uplift the mood right now. Maybe he doesn't know how to handle the situation, and that's okay. He doesn't want to see me upset, so he thought he'd make a laugh, he'd make a joke, because it's uncomfortable for him seeing me like this where he can't really help. And once that started getting to get embedded within my client's mind, it made a big difference, because she could then communicate why sometimes it made her feel like shit, why sometimes it wasn't working, and how he could possibly change it up to then be useful and be valuable in what he was saying, how he could offer different space. Think about the intention rather than the interpretation. And lastly, I want you to practice empathy. And what I mean by this is I want you to consider what the other person's going through. So let's take a different example right now. Let's look at a married couple who are arguing and bickering over the most smallest of things. The best example I can think of is a family relationship I know very well of, where it comes across as if my uncle in the scenario doesn't listen, doesn't play ball, and doesn't help out around the home in regards to with the kids. So my auntie in the scenario constantly feels that she is undervalued, and she sees it as a personal attack when no effort's being made, and sees it as a personal attack when they do argue, that he comes in with a direction and it's like, wow, that was so uncalled for. What the fuck are you doing that for? Why are you saying that for? Obviously she doesn't word it like that. This is just me wording it. And one thing I got her to think about is, and this wasn't a coaching session, it was more of a general conversation. I want you to think about what he's going through, because you're very quick to judge and you're very quick to get into a predicament and a mindset where you're right and he's wrong. I want you to think about the stresses that he's possibly going through, why sometimes he switches off, and why sometimes it comes across as he's not listening, and why it sometimes feels like you're unimportant, and really you are. Maybe it's just the timing of the conversation hasn't helped. Maybe it's a case of the way you're speaking to him and the tone, it's not landing because it comes across as disrespectful and rude. You have to take some ownership of it and also practice an element of empathy to consider what that person is going through in their life right now, and why they're possibly behaving in a manner, and like why they might throw a tiff. So when my uncle used to like help out and used to like, fine, well, don't do it right now if you don't want to do it. Like, I don't need your help. And it's like, what are you doing? Have you stopped to consider like what he's possibly going through? What he was doing on his phone when he wasn't listening? Why he was taking a break right now? Like, practice empathy. Think about it from that scenario first. Like, I know it can come across as personal, as someone's disrespecting you, disregarding you, and looking at your situation as in you're not important. But respectfully, maybe they're just trying to ensure that they're in a mindset and a frame of mind where they can offer and be of assistance and be of value. But they also need their breaks to check out. So if that's your scenario, maybe it's something worth like dialing into just a little bit. So I want you to think about it. If you're in a situation right now where you feel personally the relationships that you're in at home, partner, at work, etc. If you feel like it's all becoming quite personal, if you feel like it's getting under your skin, it's really bothering you and it's affecting your mood, your energy, and the way you turn up around other people, you're not alone in this, and you can hit me up. You know where you can find me. You can find me on Instagram at @UnclePre_, or you can find me on my website www.unfilteredcoaching.com. There's a number of blogs there around different topics and subjects, and you can book yourself into a coaching experience, an unfiltered coaching experience, where I can help you get through some of the challenges you're going through right now, and we can talk about this personal attack or this situation that you're in right now within some depth. I don't want you to feel like you're alone. I don't want you to feel like you can't reach out to people. And I'm putting my hand up and saying, if you are going through something right now, hit your boy up. Thank you again for listening to this. And if you have found it useful, again, leave a like, leave a comment, and leave some feedback. It's been your boy Pre. I'm going to try and wrap this up right now with thank you lot for listening, and peace.